Good afternoon, everybody, and good evening to everyone in Israel. This is the second part of our session conference, How Israelis and Rhode Islanders are using AI to change the world of digital health. The first session, we had great speakers and it was recorded, so we'll share it with everyone that could make it. No doubt that Rhode Island and Israel have a lot that they can do together in the field, and I think in the first session we saw how much synergy and potential there is. I would like to, before we continue, to thank our organizing committee, Annette Honti, Executive Director of RI Hub, Carol Mellis, Executive Director of the RI Bio, Melissa Simon, Director of Business Development for Brown Technology Innovation, and David Porter, Digital Health expert. I think David will not join us today as unfortunately his wife broke her wrist, so we wish them speedy recovery. Our program in the morning, session one, had Dr. Harrison Bai from Brown University, Levi Shapiro, and it was moderated by Nicole Nugent. And our next session will be moderated by Annette. She's an expert. So that was our first session. Our second session is coming now. And please, if you're an audience and you don't talk, please mute your microphone. That will be very helpful to us. And later in the week, next week, we'll send emails to everyone. So if you want to do some more connection, we have all our organization here that and we have people from URI, University of Rhode Island as well. So we will definitely share emails and we really want to continue to do what we already started like a year and a half ago. And we know there is good fruits and successes. And hopefully the next conference will be live together here in Rhode Island. So with that said, again, thank you. And I will transfer it to Annette. She'll moderate the session. And thank you, Annette, for being the moderator. And thank you, obviously, the guest speakers for presenting your technology in the field. Annette, it's all yours.
Thank you. Great to see everybody. And some of you weren't here earlier. Some of you were. If you're not from Rhode Island, look behind me. Actually, what that is Rhode Island is one of the most progressive states in the United States for building sustainable energy sources. And so that's our wind farm. It kind of, I think, got up around 2015, 2016. We're actually doubling the capacity. It's pretty cool because by 2030, our state is going to be fully sustainably driven energy-wise. So that's exciting. Talk about innovation. We love it here in Rhode Island. Thank you guys for joining us. So our topic is, we're going to be talking to 4 amazing startups. And actually, it's my favorite thing to do is talk to startups. I actually founded 3 high-tech startups myself. And so now I'm talking to startups and spending time with them because I actually love it. So we heard last session from Levi Shapiro that 91% of all of the digital health startups, 91% have an AI component. And I would suggest that sounds really right on, but I'm guessing that there won't be too many more in the future built without an AI component. It's just become a natural. So what about AI and what should we be listening for today? And by the way, we're all going to be able to ask questions. So keep those questions in your mind. And as we go, we're going to be asking each of the entrepreneurs questions as they go. So when you think about AI, it's about the data. It's really about the data. At the end of the day, it's like, how do they collect the data, manage the data, use the data? And then of course, there's the frameworks for learning. How do I validate? How do you validate, that how the AI is being used is actually the right, coming up with the right answers? All very difficult things to do, but AI is at the center, and that's what we're going to hear about today. So we're going to hear from two companies from Israel and 2 from the United States. We're going to go with Israel first because guess what? It's very late at night there. And thank you guys for doing this. We're happy to do that. I'm going to first give this to my new friend as soon as I find her. Hold on. Ravit. Hold on.
Hey.
Here we go. Ravit, can you tell us a little bit about yourself while I'm getting you set up as the owner here?
Yeah, of course. So thank you for having me. My name is Ravit Wambardea, and I am the CEO and the co-founder of Wellbeat. And I can't share my screen yet.
Now you can. And we're gonna hear from Wellbeat. Thank you, Ravit. And
Can you see my
Ravit, I'll
screen?
let you know when you have about 2 minutes left. So take it away.
I see your screen.
Yes.
Okay, great. So good evening from Israel, and thank you for having me. My name is Ravit Wambardea, and I'm the CEO and the co-founder of Wellbeat. Wellbeat's mission is making a difference in people's lives and changing humanity in healthcare. Study shows that almost 70% of the patients are struggling and can't follow the treatment instruction. It costs the healthcare alone $300 billion at the US market. So we're asking ourselves, how can we trigger those patients to follow the care plan? How can we support them when they struggle and when they are going through challenges? How can we understand the differentiation between one patient to another? And how can we really scale up and create a standard of care? In order to do that, we can actually integrate Wellbeat, which is a SaaS service solutions, a white label that can be integrated with whatever existing solution the payer or provider is working with. By adding Wellbeat, we're actually adding a new way of learning the root cause of each and every individual and understanding what drives him or what are the barriers that he suffers from. We do that with a very unique technology, combining behavioral science with AI and ML in order to dramatically understand the profiling of each and every individual in a dynamic way, and by that, increasing the succeed of the behavioral treatment path for each and every individual. By adding Wellbeat, now the provider will see in a snapshot who is the patient and how to approach correctly and to create the right relationship in order to make him more engaged and with high adherence. The telehealth and the telemedicine will be able to receive a telescript, and in between the human interactions, we can share automatically, manually, or by hybrid, different interactions that can be shared with the patients. Everything is done now with our recommendation engine, and we can support and navigating through the right omni-channel, through the right narrative, approach, and frequency. And the beauty is that our recommendation engine can detect different paths of the patients, and everything is captured and evidence-based measured in order to bring a better business processing to the providers and the payer, decrease the cost of care, increase, of course, the patient-centrics and the patient experience that for what he is going through, optimize the patient interactions, and of course, looking in how to improve the patient experience, outcomes, and increasing loyalty and the market share. So let's focus on those three gentlemen. Those three gentlemen look the same gender, the same age, even suffering from the same condition and the same stage of the disease, and even having the same economical status. But adding Wellbeat is actually adding new parameters. We are analyzing 100 different personal traits on each and every individual, and by that, understanding the differentiation between each and every patient. If we are looking, for example, at patient A, okay, he's more family-oriented. He would need us to look at him as individual. He doesn't want us to go through routine, okay? All these new elements will be provided to the providers with the do and don't and how to communicate correctly with the patient. And after the interaction that the provider is having with the patient, he can feed us back. And the beauty is that the recommendation engine are detecting that patient A, for example, started very strongly with high adherence, but then starts struggling. When we detect that he struggled, we will learn his behavior, we will adjust the messaging and the different omni-channels, and by that create the next interaction. D, on the other end, is more self-managed. He doesn't want to be told of what to do. He wants to be in charge. And in order to make him more responsive, he has to receive more evidence-based statistics and other elements. And again, those elements, we see that he's starting with really juggling through his adherence. He is going through a lot of challenges. And again, we detect it and create the right intelligent intervention. So by adding well-being into your existing system, we can provide a new patient experience and, of course, can tailor the conversation with the patient through already the omni-channels that the organization is using. So it can be through chatbot, SMS, notifications, and other elements. The provider will receive the do and don't and what to avoid when we communicate with him, and can see elements such as persistent risk and, of course, conflict between what he feels and what's happening with the patients. And the leadership will be able now to receive more trends on different services that will be suitable for different personas, what kind of way to communicate on campaign with different population in risk, and so on. So how do we do that? We start by collecting data from EMR, IoT, mobiles, and others. We add on top of it, our digital survey, and that all of those parameters and data is going through our 4 different recommendation engine. We map it, and we can now see 14 different clusters which combine 10,000 of different intelligent intervention. And this is, of course, an ongoing process that gives us the way that we can really massively communicate with millions of members at the same time and creating the right standards of care. This solution, of course, was already running in different studies and projects in US and in Israel. And we showed that we double level of participation in assisted living with seniors that are 70, 80, and 19 years old. And we showed that we triple level of adherence in rehabilitation center, for example, with cardiovascular. We now signed a partnership with a UST company, with a US company, which is a UST. It's an IT company who is working with Fortune 500 payers and provider, having data on 100 million of members. And by collaborating with them, we can now work through EPIC and other EMRs as well. We also partner with Convergent, which is a telehealth at the East Coast. And again, in order to bring a better conversation through the sales force, we are integrating our solutions. We went through several different programs at the US, in Hartford, Connecticut, 365X New York, IBM, and we are now part of Microsoft AI for Good. We believe strongly in collaboration and partnership. We believe that by that we can really integrate it easily and can present more flexible integrations. Of course, we have several patterns under Wellbeat, and the system is complied by the HIPAA, GDPR, and ISO. The market is growing, and this is actually a small number for the real patient engagement solutions, because if you add on top of it RPM, CCM, telehealth, and interactives, all of that is now bringing it to $100 billion of a market share just for patient engagement solutions. Wellbeat is leading in dynamically personalized patient profiling and bringing comprehensive tailored tools for each and every providers. Our business model is very, very easy. We are looking at B2B2C, working with payers and provider, direct and indirect, and the business model is more annual license fee per active user per month with the outcome-based pricing. Our ask is for $2 million, and we secured already $650K at the round. Myself, I was running already global companies with a P&L of $100 million a year and work with several distributors around the global. David Washina was running R&D of startups that some of them were acquired. And Karen Aaron, she was leading in the last 30 years business model and behavioral models in motivational understanding and others. We couldn't do all of that without this amazing advisory board from Israel and from the state, who are coming from different fields such as psychology, medicine, technology, AI, and ML. I would love to answer any question.
Fabulous. You nailed it, right at the right time, Ravit. Thank you so much. So I wanted to invite anybody who wants to ask a question. You could either put it in the chat, you could raise your hand, you could maybe just start speaking, but I have a couple of questions, Ravit. I always really love to hear the backstory. Three of you are co-founders. How did this idea come to be? How did you say, this is what needs to happen in the world today?
So it starts very easily. You look at your parents and you see how they struggle when suddenly they need to start taking several different pills or going through a different diet because of any diseases that struck them. And you see that the relationship, they have a good relationship with their physician, but in the couple of minutes that the physician is having with them, it can't really go deeper, okay? So we actually believe that we shouldn't blame the providers, but we should support them, okay? And this is exactly what we said. We said that we are working very hardly on how to engage us to buy more and to, everything is on mostly marketing and economic. And we said we have to do it in the healthcare. So this is the reason why we actually build all of that.
I mean, the savings alone, we recognize that getting people just to take their prescriptions is a #1 issue in terms of healthcare costs. And so you're actually fixing that. So Greg Jackson has a question. Greg, go ahead.
I was going to say Boker Tov, but I'm going to say Lila Tov. We have to say that at the end, don't we?
Yes, Lila Tov, but not yet.
Shalom. I would prefer to be called Gershon. I should have put Gershon here in my name. Neil Meod, very nice to meet you. I'm here in New York. And my daughter was supposed to be in Israel. That didn't happen due to all the craziness going on in this world. Ravit, I loved your presentation. I love the information and the progress you've made. It's really, really amazing.
Thank you.
I have I guess it's a 4-part question, which has 4 parts. So tell me if I need to repeat all of it. But here's the big question. Let me know how we want to break this down and if it makes sense in this venue. So stay with me for a second.
I'm with you.
You said you've connected to EM, or either you are or going to connect to EMDR. So my question is, for the EMDR or the EMR, I'm sorry, not EMDR, for the EMR.
EMR, yeah.
Yes, sorry, for the IoT, for the mobile, and for the bots, which of those are you already connecting to of those 4?
So it depends on the project, okay? Each project, which is very important, we don't need to connect to everything. It depends of the project. So for example, we did a project with a pharmaceutical company. So we connected to a CRM and a bot, okay? In another project that we did in a hospital, in Sheba Rehabilitation Center, so it was with EMR and IoT. So the beauty of the flexibility of our integration that also can be, we having, I didn't say that, but we are working through 2 clouds, it's Amazon or Azure, okay? So everything is very flexible and tailored to the project as well. We can start with no data, which is something very, very unique, or having the data that I just shared with you, okay? I hope it answers your question.
Sure, and then the next part to that is, for each of those 4, how many different types have you connected to already?
So since we are now partnering with the biggest, okay, so they are already integrated with almost all the EMRs, okay? So I'm connecting to them, and this is a very important point. I don't need to connect to the EMRs. So by going through that, they connect me to the EMRs. I hope it was easy to understand. And the same we are doing with, for example, with convergence. So we are integrating into the Salesforce one time, and then whatever project is going to go through their integration. So in doing it in that way, I can scale up very easily, okay? I can actually work with all their existing clients, okay? And we already tried and integrated with several different EMRs in Israel and in the States, and CRM as well, okay?
What's your current sales so far, and what's projected for 2021? Year to date and 2021.
So we started already with 35,000, and this year is going to, we just started now with the sales, and this year we are going to have around 500K, and next year it's the projection is for more than almost $4 million, because it's a SaaS service, so you can scale very quickly.
I've got more questions, but I want to open, Annette, I'm sure you're going to want to pull this out to everybody else. Mazel tov. I want to wish you a lot of luck.
Thank you
so much for your questions. Actually, a good question about who is, what's the business model? Who pays here?
So it's payers or provider, as I said before. Okay, they are the one who would pay. The business model, it's a combination of annual license fee per active user per month, plus a success. Okay, so for example, as I showed you before, that with RIIC level of adherence, we showed that we really partner with you. We take the risk as well, and we know that we can support you, and this is why we add it. Of course, the 3+1, because the fourth will be integration, but as I explained before to Gershon, this can be sometimes only one time, so it's not a part of it.
Terrific.
More question?
Well, Ravit, if you wouldn't mind making me the
yeah, for sure.
Again, that would be great. Thank you. And then we're going to thank you so much. That was awesome.
Thank you.
By the way, I invite everybody to go to Ravit's website, go to Wellbeat, because there are some fantastic videos on there that actually really show you what it's like to use the app and to kind of be in the middle of it and, watch. This is a classic where there's a human being, the caregiver, that gets more information than they normally would have, and they can actually give better care. It's really almost as simple as that in that sense. So thank you, Ravit. Next up, we're going to hear from, thank you again. And next up, we're going to hear from Or. Basically, we're going to hear from Or Peleg. And he is somebody I've met actually before from Light BC. And I'm going to make you the host. Here we go. Interesting. Here we go. Thank you, the host. All right, Or, you are up, and we're going to give you 10 minutes. And what you're doing is now for something completely different.
Yeah, definitely. But still using AI.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so first of all, thank you very much, Annette and Avi, for giving me this opportunity to talk and introduce Light BC. Light BC was founded about 1.5 years ago, late 2019. With a mission of developing a non-invasive blood count analyzer. So as we know now, the digital health regime is bursting, is exploding. There is a very strong revolution arising from the high capabilities that machine learning and big data is introducing into our lives. Now, it is both in the population level and also in the individual levels. And today we can see many startups using AI in order to make data more accessible, very similar to what Ravit has just showed us. Also to do data analysis for CT scans, for radiology, etc. And also to improve the physician interaction with the, actually to make the data more accessible to the physicians. Now, what do all this have in common? They're all using data and masses of data. What we think is missing in this puzzle is actually more data. We think that if you will be able to have continuous monitoring of the health of each individual, we will be able to predict much more easily the evolution of diseases. Now, this is the solution that Light BC is offering. We are doing both hardware and software. And what we're developing is a non-invasive blood count analyzer. This will help us, we believe, to have predictive health analysis that is based on blood monitoring. We will talk about this more in the remainder of this presentation. Now, what is the blood count, the complete blood count, or CBC, as some of you know it? There are over 3 billion blood counts performed annually globally. The blood count actually counts your blood cells, the red blood cells, the white blood cells, the platelets, hemoglobin, etc. It gives the physician a very strong indication on the health status of the patient. And 10% of all blood tests are actually blood counts. How is it done today? Well, as you can see here, today, in order to get a blood count, you need to take blood out of the patient and then put it in a cuvette, send it to the laboratory, and a very big machinery, large machinery with highly skilled people operating it, is analyzing the blood, and then the results come back. Usually it takes about 1 day. If it is really, really urgent, it can take about 40 minutes. What do we suggest to do differently? Well, using our device, it will be just like using a thermometer. You simply place the probe on your lip, you wait for about 30 seconds, and you immediately see the results on the screen. Now, what is immediately? If you want the red blood count, then you need to wait for about 1 or 2 seconds. If you want the white blood count, you need to wait for about 10 seconds. If you want the differential count, then you need to wait for 30 seconds. So this is a very, very flexible device. Now, the value proposition is almost trivial. We give real-time results, and by real-time, we do mean real-time. It means, for instance, that if a surgeon wants to know what's the blood status of the person he is operating on, he can know it every second by second. This is extremely important for surgeons. It is completely bloodless, which eliminates all contamination risks, etc. It's a dry process. It's not a wet process. There are no chemicals involved. It is cost-effective because we don't take blood out. We don't use reagents to operate on it. We simply probe with a microscope and actually count the blood cells as they move. And it's extremely simple to use. How simple is it to use? A person will be able to use it on himself. Let's look a bit more about the technology. We're actually a very, very sophisticated microscope. To the left here, you can see a video of a capillary. You can barely see anything, but there is a capillary here, and I assure you. And sometimes you see white blinks in the capillary. This is actually the white blood cells. Now, if we use our proprietary technology, the deep spectral vision, you can see here, you can see the two capillaries clearly in the picture. And moreover, you can see the blood cells flowing within this capillary very quickly. Now I can tell you, this is how a lymphocyte looks like. It is a specific type of a white blood cell. This is another type of blood cell, neutrophil. By the way, the neutrophil and the lymphocytes constitute about 90% of all white blood cells. This is a red blood cells. And then you can actually count each one of them separately. Now, we do understand that data is the raw material of the 21st century. And what do we mean by this? So, forgive me, I will back up a bit. We are going to use AI in order to analyze this, all this information in the videos. Now, if we were to take this challenge about 10 years ago, it would have been really, really difficult to do this. Now we can use the power of machine learning and AI in order to teach the computer how a white blood cell looks like, how differentiation on white blood cells, red blood cells, etc. So this is one place in which we are going to use AI. The second place is even more revolutionary. I will tell you a bit about a paper that was published 4 years ago by Professor Varda Shalev here in Maccabi in Israel. She showed that if you probe only one parameter from the blood count, the hemoglobin, you can actually improve tremendously the prediction for colorectal cancer in patients over 50 years old. This is only with one parameter. How did she do it? Obviously, by using machine learning algorithms on very, very large amount of data. By the way, what held this research from being, I think, much more with high fidelity is the fact that she actually had spacing of about 18 months between one sample and the other. This is what eliminated many, many patients that didn't have the blood count in these gaps. We believe that if now we offer continuous blood count, if you don't need to prick yourself and get blood out of your body in order to detect the blood count, this measurement will be much more frequent. Also in COVID-19, again, this is for large population. If you know, for instance, only the lymphocytes in your body for a large population, you can say where you expect an eruption of, say, a pandemic. Now, you can see here the interaction of patients and citizens with the medical environment. What we're actually seeking now is to talk to the providers and professionals in order to understand the need, what exactly, to better understand the market fit, the product market fit of our hemoscope, our device, and also to research labs and universities in order to understand what else we can probe, if it is glucose, if it is B12, if it is CRP, etc., etc. We have already started to work on the clinical trials in Hadassah Hospital in Israel, and we are starting collaborations with Maccabi and Clalit, who are the two largest HMOs in Israel, in order to deploy our devices in beta sites within these two HMOs. We are seeking cooperations with other clinics and HMOs in the US in order to better understand the need and the process in the US for our vision. Now, the vision is almost trivial. We want to make the blood count accessible at homes, not just hospitals at homes. We want to have people using the hemoscope, the blood analyzer, just as frequently as they're using the thermometer, and thus having much more information on their immediate health and also on predictive analysis on the eruption of any disease that may erupt. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Wow. Thank you for that, Or. And just to clarify, it is a CBC. It is a count of blood and blood cell types. What right now, you're not doing the chemistry piece, correct?
That's true.
Okay, got it. Good.
At the moment, we're not doing the chemistry, although we do have I would say, I dare say, the most sophisticated microscope combined with a spectrometer. And thus we can see exactly where we take the data from. For instance, we can say whether if the data came from the plasma, from the white blood cells, from the red blood cells, etc. And thus we will be able, we believe, we need focus now, but we will be able to determine also different chemicals due to spectroscopic signatures.
Yeah, as I mentioned to you, and by the way, I'm going to turn the floor over to one of our favorite questioners here in a moment. I'm going to get to you, Gershon. Big question for me is, why the lip? It seemed like that's an area, is that being—
Yeah, that's a very good question, thank you. The lip has many advantages. First of all, it is very low in pigments. So this means that darker skinned people and lighter skinned people look exactly the same in our microscope, through the lip. This is one thing. Another thing is that the capillaries, the place where the veins turn into, where the veins actually curl and pass the oxygen, etc., to the body, is very close to the surface. And this means we can achieve much better resolution in this place.
That's great.
These are
That's great. Okay, Greg or Gershon, you want to go ahead? And he's got a couple of really great questions.
Sure. This is the short version. I have a feeling we can go on for hours, weeks, or months.
That's true.
Do you have a USB port connected to this at this point, or coming up soon?
No. We actually, what we're doing now is to concentrate on developing the accuracy of the machine. We don't have connections to the US yet, but we do plan to deploy our beta site within 1 year once they are fully developed in various beta sites in the US.
Right, I'm sorry. It wasn't US as in United States, it was USB.
Oh, USB, so the connectivity. I'm sorry, you're asking about the connectivity of the device. Yes, so it is not fully resolved now, obviously, but I can say that we are considering both USB connection into the healthcare infrastructure and also Bluetooth in order to pass the information. Now, there will be two phases of this product, right? The first phase will go to hospitals and clinics, and the second phase will be after some, I would say, serious BOM cost reduction, and this will go to consumers. Now, with the consumers, obviously, everything will be wireless.
Got it. Part of my talk, my asking about USB specifically, because there are probably ways of connecting to things like Raman spectroscopy in case your system allows transmission also, not just receiving, because you can transmit light and then receive back, not just transmit for diagnosis. As you know, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I'm curious if that's on your roadmap in the future, not just connecting to your own instrument, but connecting, almost be a white box that can connect to other, you know, Siemens Technology, Johnson & Johnson's, Boston Scientifics, and everything else that's out there.
At the moment, not. Okay. But we may consider it in the future. I will say this is a very, I would say, sophisticated piece of equipment with two microscopes combined inside this very, very small signature device. So combining it with other devices, yes, it will be possible, but not in the, I would say, next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, you truly have the lab on a chip, which has been a dream, a dream for decades. You have the lab on the chip.
Interesting that you're saying this, but yes, we are working on optical chip technology, and this will reduce the price. This is what the price reduction I mentioned before to reach consumers.
Excellent.
I have more, but please, Annette, if there's others, or you have to move on, please. Otherwise, I have a couple other questions.
I think we have to move on, but hold that, because maybe at the very end we can just ask many more questions. So thank you for your questions.
We will share also the email. So if you have any specific question, anyone on the session, send us and we will connect you with our speakers.
Or if you could make me the host again, and I will.
Sure, no problem.
Next up, we have Profility. And as I talk about Profility, it's really interesting because, let's see, am I the host yet? I haven't been able to.
I think you are now.
Now I am, great. Okay, I'm gonna make OHAD.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, it was fantastic. I love what you're doing. I can't wait to see you over here in Rhode Island. We wanna make some connections for you here. I know you're looking for research labs, etc. So thank you again. Yeah, have a great evening. Okay, please hang out with us. So next we have Ohad Arbazali, and I'm thrilled to talk about this company for Profility, primarily because they're our first example of a company that was founded in Israel and now lives. Actually, we have a headquarters for them here in Rhode Island. They're at RIIC. They're incubating here with us. And I know there's a few of them here today, Matt, etc. Ohad is one of the founders, and I think he is actually in Israel. He's not in Rhode Island today. And so again, thank you for joining us so late, and take it away, Ohad.
Thank you very much. So yes, I'm considered to be the Rhode Island company. Physically, I'm in Israel, so thank you very much for having me. So my name is Ohad Barzilai. I'm a founder and VP of R&D of Profility. We are a cloud-based predictive analytics platform focusing on personalized care planning. So personalized health care is really the future of health. It's very clear today, and mainly after what we all experienced in the last year of the pandemic, that the need for technology and the need to improve healthcare's decision and processes is mandatory for health system all over the world, not only in the US, but it's really a problem of everywhere. And with Profility, we are doing exactly this. We are moving beyond the average patient and beyond the rules-based decision to more personalized approach. We have access to very big data sets, and together with technology, we put the patient in the center, and we really support the decision in real time to set the right care planning for the specific patient. So our focus is the continuum of care. This is a very complex area where there are many decision makers involved in the process. Patients are having acute episodes in hospitals, and then they are discharged to continue the rehabilitation at either a rehab facility or at home. Payers, the insurance companies, are of course also part of the approval process. Profility expertise is to personalize this process and to engage the different player to have a continued view of the patient. By providing analytics in transition, we are supporting critical decision and make sure that the patient treatment is well fit to what the patient needs. So how we do it? We have developed a collaboration platform that on one hand has an access to tens of millions of medical records of historical patients that went through these processes in the past and we know what happened to them. And on the other hand, has a list of solutions that support real-time decision. Our solution helps the discharge process in the acute hospital by selecting the right care and the right providers to do this care. We optimize the transition itself of the patient by providing early warning and warm handoff to the team that in the next level of care that is accepting the patient for the next treatment. And we continue doing it until the patient is discharged home safely. As you can see, this is a huge market with a huge potential. In many areas, specifically in the US, more and more are moving to what is called value-based care, shared risk models and bundle payments, compared to what was common in the past as service-based care. It means that healthcare providers are currently responsible also financially to what happened to the patient even after they are leaving their facilities. This is creating a huge potential for solutions like ours. Only in the US, there are formal publications of the CMS and Ministry of Health about tens of billions of dollars that could be saved annually if the patient will have the right treatment and the right care, and readmission will be avoided. So we are very proud to be fully operational, and we have passed the most critical stage in our startup lives, moving for very nice and very interesting concept to real value and real customers. So I'll give you an example. In the last 3 years, we are working together with Montefiore Health System, which is a chain of 11 hospitals in the state of New York. They are working with 150 post-acute care facilities, skilled nursing facilities, and more than 80 home care agencies. We started with them at the pilot stage, and we, in the last 2 years, are fully operational with some of our solutions. And the effect of using Profility platform is really big. As you can see here, in all the dimensions that we are measured on by Montefiore, we managed to provide a real impact, reducing a lot the readmission rates, saving a lot lengths of stay in the hospital for patients that are discharged either home to skilled nursing facilities, reducing significantly the days of stay in the post-acute care providers facilities, and increasing a lot the selection to the right facilities compared to just geographical selections. Montefiore themselves estimated this saving of about $4 to $6 million annually, and the target is to reach for health system like their a saving of $20 million in a year. By the way, Montefiore is our partner, is a paying customer with multi-year agreement, but they're also our customer, our partner with equity and Profility, and they are our design partner that help us set the right solutions that can really become in the day-to-day workflow in the hospitals. So maybe one word about the COVID-19 and the effect. We all suffered from a very strange year in the last year, but we see the COVID and the impact of the COVID as a great potential and great opportunity for our solutions and similar solutions, because what we really feel today is that the market is, our market, digital health and the AI based on data, is really attractive now, and it's very clear that technology should support improving on processes and avoid unnecessary visits to health provider, specifically talking about elderly populations. So we are currently moving to a growth phase. We are looking for new partners. After Montefiore, we have a new partner called Health Pro Heritage, which is a very large player in the US in the skilled nursing facilities and assisted living market, serving hundreds of customers. We are working together and we build products that serve all their customers. We also have other partners, and we are really looking for growth and to duplicate what we have achieved till today in new health system and in new geographical area to improve the post-acute care planning and outcomes. So 1 minute maybe about the platform. We are a cloud-based platform. As I said, we are working very closely with IBM. We graduated from the AlphaZone IBM program, accelerated program a few years ago, and we are continue working together with them as a cloud solution for healthcare. We need to meet all the regulation and all the standards that are required in order to manage healthcare information and PHI. And we are very proud to work with the right product manager and architecture in IBM to help us set a product which is scalable and can meet more and more data and more traffic, serving more customers. IBM are also very proud in our partnerships. They are presenting us as a successful story in many different occasions. We are part of the annual reports. We were selected to be as part of the campaign in the US Open last year in the US, broadcasted on TV. And I was presenting with IBM CEO a few months ago in Israel in the opening session in the IBM biggest event in Israel. So our solution and the problem we are approaching is a universal problem. It's not only the US. Continuum of care is a global problem, and reducing cost is a global problem. And our vision is really to have a cloud-based solution that will support multiple countries. We already activated on the operation also in Israel, and we just recently won the Horizon 2020 grant together with the consortium of 12 partners, medical and academic partners in Europe. And we are starting a very interesting project about helping elderly population post-acute episodes. And this will be our door opener to be operational in Europe. And last minute about our team and the company. So as Annette said, we started in Israel. We are currently have headquarters in the US and R&D in Israel. Erez Shechter and myself are the founders of the company. We both came from the computer science background, and Profility is our second venture after we did the first one that we successfully managed to sell to Amdocs, and we work in Amdocs for a few years. Marxis is our CEO, leading our commercial aspects in the US. Also have very rich background of successful exits and growing companies. Just Matt, who is also on this call, just joined us as our leading sales activities. And we really have also very rich advisory board here in Israel and in the US, clinically and business, that are helping us a lot to grow. Awesome.
Thank you, Ohad. That was awesome. And good to see Mark here and Matt. It's good to see the team here. So this is fascinating, especially because you're already in a fairly short period of time proving to bring millions of dollars, to save millions of dollars for these hospitals. Can you tell us a little bit about how you make money? Who pays, actually? Because it's a fairly complex ecosystem that you're dealing with.
Yeah, it's really complex ecosystem, and what's nice in our solutions that we are really cloud-based, that are serving all the different players in this flow. So both health system and post-acute care providers and payers are interested in our solution. So we can, when we are approaching a new area, and this is our model, by the way, to approach area by area, because the more presence we have in an area, the more value we can bring. So each one of these players can be our customers. We can start from the health system and go to the post-acute care provider, or vice versa, because we have tens of millions of records of acute and post-acute care patients. We can provide, we have solutions that are serving the acute, we have solutions that are serving the post-acute, and we have solutions that are focusing on the transition. So our main value is to capture more and more customers in the same geographical area, and each one of them will be a customer of ours, paying us for our services.
Great. And sort of unlike Ravit's Wellbeat, you're actually taking all the data in aggregate and learning from the aggregated data. How easy or difficult is it to actually get the data from these sources? That seems like a big deal, that they're actually handing over data to you.
Yes. So when we started the company, and this is where we came from, we were introduced to an organization, a global organization called InterEye, that developed forms to track about patients that are going through rehabilitation processes in skilled nursing facilities. And these forms, called the minimal data sets, are the standards in all the 16,000 facilities in the US. So this, and we have an agreement, a research agreement with them and the CMS. So this was our first trigger to get the big data chunk. And since then we grow either by buying more historical data from the CMS and enlarge our data sets, and then integrate with the facilities and acute hospitals. So currently we are integrated with Epic, and we are integrated with EMR system in the post-acute care facilities. I can say that with hospital, it's not so easy. With the skilled nursing facilities, because they are small, it's easier process. But we already have the tools to extract the data and use it for our needs to provide real-time support and also to improve our learning sets.
Can you guys get a percentage of what you save, like over time, to say, look, we're going to take a percentage of that 4 million? Come on, Matt, you can sell that. I know you can. Let's do that. All right. Anybody else have questions? Open it up to the floor.
I just want to make a comment that IBM AlphaZone is part of the RI hubs that Annette is running, and that was a great, that is a great collaboration between Rhode Island and Israel. And I encourage more people and more organizations to be involved in that. Hadassit in Israel is involved, Yazamut 360, Oasis in Ben Gurion University. So you have an open place to the Israelis that listen in Rhode Island, and I'm challenging people from Tel Aviv, Technion, and other organizations to take advantage of what Annette and her RI Hub offers.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And we love IBM AlphaZone, and Ronan is our Chief Technology Officer, who's not always present in Rhode Island. We let him stay in Israel. Thank you, Ohad. Thank you, Team Profility, and looking forward to seeing you back. And thank you for making me once again the host. Next up, and last but not least, one of my favorite new companies. I'm going to call it a new company. So most of the time when we think about innovation and some of these companies coming out of research, they're coming out of a university. So here in Rhode Island, along with Brown University, we have University of Rhode Island, which is a huge school, and there's a ton of research going on. And we're lucky enough to have a very new company just getting started. And actually, Kunal is here from there, and I'm looking for Nick. Here's Nick. We're going to be hearing from Nick Constant, and the company's name is EchoWear. And many of us, unfortunately, know somebody with Parkinson's disease, and so we're going to talk about a particular disease state and what Nick is doing with their new company around this topic. So take it away, Nick. You have the floor. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nick Constant. I am currently a PhD student over at the University of Rhode Island, and I have been personally studying the technologies involved with monitoring people with Parkinson's disease for the past few years. My professor, Kunal Mankodia, is also here with me. We've been working through this together. We found some really great research, and we've been trying to find the right way to move it out into the market. And we've been working on that over the past few years. So I thought I'd take this time to kind of walk you through the company and our journey moving this forward. And so essentially what we've done is we've created a company called EchoWear, which has a mission of improving access to healthcare through digital health services. So why EchoWear? Well, our technology from the get-go was contrived in a lab. It was started through grant funding, and you know, we've kind of built it from the ground up. And we have interacted a lot with people with Parkinson's disease. And what we've been hearing from them quite often was that this is a wonderful tool. We would love to be able to monitor the progression of our disease. You know, our medications, they help. However, it's hard to really track over the long term how this is progressing. And, you know, we felt like, all right, well, we can make a difference here, but it's not going to make a difference sitting in a lab. So we wanted to understand, how do you go about migrating outward? So we started with the people. We brought our technologies out to conferences. We've had people into our labs, and we started to understand about what is this problem of chronic disease, and particularly Parkinson's disease. And so what we are very well aware of as we go through this is that while there isn't a cure, the progression, if well monitored, can be slowed, and the severity only gets worse as life goes on. And so this reduction in the increase in severity is very important. And the presentation of disease, of the disease through symptoms is incredibly unique to each of the people. And so at the end of the day, just monitoring some of the symptoms can be very difficult. And it comes down to, some folks have comorbidities with other diseases. And so being able to differentiate between the side effects from either the medication from another treatment plan that may be compounding with the current treatment plan for the Parkinson's disease. This is a hard thing to go about. And then also communicating what you're feeling when you're at home to the doctor. That is another area of difficulty that the people with Parkinson's disease are definitely struggling from. The other one that we've noticed is the self-education portion. People with Parkinson's disease are very excited to know the latest research. They want to understand what tools are available to them and how do they use them. They want to understand more about their treatment plans and how they can best take advantage of the tools that they do have available to them. However, while there are tons and tons of resources out there for folks, it can be very hard to find the appropriate ones for you. That personalization aspect is where this comes in, and that becomes rather tedious. So we found out that they spent hours Googling, you know, trying to be their own doctor for the most part, understanding what remedies and therapies help. And then, you know, a third pillar problem that we see here is communication. Now, while the person may be able to experience the symptoms, they don't necessarily have the ability to communicate these very well. There may be large distances between visits. When the person goes to the doctor's office, the doctor themselves may not be able to rely or trust what this person is telling them. Either it's due to a cognition problem where the person may be forgetful or becoming demented, or the person may just have not a very lax approach to how have things been since last visit. And so there's this disconnect here where we need some communication on how are things happening outside of the doctor's office, and, you know, address the patient motivation. So overall, the problem of Parkinson's disease does affect a lot of folks. You know, these numbers that you see here, this is assuming that they've been diagnosed. There are a lot of folks that are not diagnosed. Just getting to the diagnosis of Parkinson's disease itself, that is a hurdle, including just having that accessibility to neurologists or specialists that can identify that this is Parkinson's disease. It's very common to have Parkinson's disease misdiagnosed in a variety of different fashions. Some even result in mistaken surgeries, and that type of situation is difficult. Primarily, we are based in Rhode Island, so we've started our focus in the US, but particularly we wanted to stay small, so we focused on New England. And we saw that that population was about 10,000 folks that are currently diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Just by including New York, you double the number. If you look at overall, though, for Parkinson's disease, the annual growth is roughly 2.4% year over year. And the current or the recently reported economic burden from 2018 shows that it's about $52 billion. And so there's a lot of money being spent here on this disease. Now, what's going on with the management and how can AI help? Well, as we've seen from several of the talks prior, AI is really helpful with getting precision and being able to kind of take very large data sets and derive rather unique solutions. So being able to provide a personal approach for how are you greeting the person, that might be one way, but for us, it's being able to interact with a variety of different inputs that the person may be using. So we go about life and we have a lot of different wearables that we interact with throughout the day. Some of us may wear watches, some of us may have an Alexa or even a smart thermometer. These types of things all provide different types of information, which can help understand daily active living. They can also help you understand just the amount of intensity that the person is going through in a day as far as expending energy. And so this type of information is helpful for a doctor to understand the physiological situation for the person and see how the treatment or the medication may be affecting that. However, it's also it's still just physiological. It's still not including the person themselves. And so you need to include the personal, the subjective, the feeling, the pain that they may have. These things won't be monitored by the wearables. So it's important to not forget that the person needs to be able to input their own subjective feelings into this. So including patient-reported outcomes is also important. Now, all of that information, it's unique, it's large. There's a lot of information to work through there. So how can we use that to sort through the also large variety of information that is available about their symptoms and about possible treatments? So I think AI can help bridge the gap between connecting the dots between what are the current symptoms that are being felt, here's the treatment plan that's applied, and here are some resources that are available. And there are, again, a lot of very trusted resources. Lastly, being able to communicate this information with the care team through a patient-centered UI is it's important. So I say it says human-centered UI, but really at the end of the day, for the patient is where we keep our focus most often. And so the patient is where we tend to spend most of our time. However, in our developments, we do design work with both the patients and the clinician. Largely, it involves workshops where we bring them into the lab or to another site where we will have them interact with some of the wearables that we are making and also the different applications that we use to help guide them through exercises or understand what therapy is being provided. But this information is only so helpful when it's in a lab. And so currently we're working on putting this out into the real world where folks are using this for a longer period of time in their homes. And then as we go through, we'll get to learn a better understanding. We'll get to understand what we need to chop off extraneous features that aren't very needed and really nail down what the final MVP looks like and what those features are. So the journey's been interesting. Thank you, Annette, for saying new. I think new is an interesting word. I'm a PhD student, so I've been going through the academic route, and I have not done that drop out of college thing. So I'm still trying to chug that along. I graduate this summer, and so it's a wonderful road ahead of me. But this idea was inspired back in 2017. 2016. And in 2017, we brought this to the Rhode Island Business Plan competition and gave that our first go around. In 2019, we started to engage with a bit more of the customers on the customer discovery front, where we went through a local I-Core program focused on understanding the market fit for our wearables. And later, after that, we took those learnings and went through a MedTech program. This was helpful for us because at the end of the day, we needed to understand where the FDA regulation lies. And for us, we were working with wearables and there would be treatment intervention. And so what we're finding is that while the wearables do need to go through the FDA regulation, there are some parts of our technologies that do not need to. And so getting to understand what those lines are, that program was very helpful. We took that understanding and we went one more time to the National I-Core program, where we got to interview about 50 folks with Parkinson's disease and another 50 folks throughout their care team. That includes the care providers, the caregivers, and even folks in pharma. Clinical trials. And now we're going through a digital health accelerator that can help us understand how to maintain, or generate more IP related products, as well as interact with or generate more partnerships and finalize a business plan that will generate a business model.
Nick, we're at 10 minutes now. So this one more slide here, this will be good.
Yeah, sure.
Timeline, yeah.
We're in science, we're about done with that. Here's what's going up next. We're looking to get through the validation, great advisors and collaborators, and here's what we're looking for. If anyone has any help, by all means.
Excellent. All right. Thank you for that. And, sorry to cut you off there, but you guys are doing great work. And I know that the wearable piece here as well, you guys are thinking about today, we have a lot of wearables we wear now, right? Everything from our cell phone to our watches, et cetera. And, the goal would be to take information in there, but you also are working on a specific wearable for people with Parkinson's. Is that correct?
Yes.
So that's going to be the big news. And at this point, you're still in trial. You're still early and working through that original proof of concept, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we do the grant application. So we're going through the non-dilutive fund route. So we're applying for different grants. We're breaking down the project into ways that we can apply to get that initial funding. And then that'll help put us through the clinical trials.
Yeah. So when do you think you'll get to clinical trial? I know I kind of forced you to get through that pretty quickly, but yeah. Okay. So there's where we are. So yeah. Basically by 2024, 2023, you'll be in clinical trial. So.
Yeah, it takes a little bit more time. This is definitely not.
Definitely no. We know how long these things take. It's a great thing. So, are there questions? Do people out there have some questions for Nick? Well, I'll keep asking some questions, just a little bit more here. So, in terms of taking university IP and turning this into a company, you're doing the right things in terms of getting the right kind of funding, but also getting NEMIC, which is for us, it's New England Medical Innovation. It's a fantastic place to go for somebody at your stage, for sure. And so the answer is how do you take from what you're doing now into thinking about building a business? Has that part started yet, or are you still so steeped in the research that you're not even there yet in terms of who will pay? How will this thing roll out? Is it going to be rolling out through physician channels or direct to those with Parkinson's?
Yeah, so we would imagine that the wearables themselves would be prescribed. We do recognize a couple of CPT codes that appear to be reimbursable. We got to go through the process of having our device regulated by the FDA. We believe we found predicate devices as well. So the process shouldn't be too long, too difficult. It's long-winded, the test, but for the most part, it seems like the device itself is fitting into a need and fitting into the current environment pretty well.
Great, excellent. And we actually heard from Greg, who has to jump off at this point, but he wants to. He's left his email and phone number because he wants to talk to you about helping you with the grant management. So that's a good thing. Anybody else have any other questions for Nick and what they're looking to do? Which, of course, anybody who knows someone with Parkinson's, it is a complex disease. It shows up very differently in each person, it seems to me, that I know with it, and I know a few. And as you say, it's very difficult to actually diagnose properly. And then sort of treatment ongoing, it's a changing situation. So I think a wearable would be is a great solution, and one that leverages AI actually would be terrific. So
yeah, I think one of the hard things to get through with this is also if the person does develop a dementia, how to maintain their level of autonomy.
Exactly. Huge. That's a huge topic. So, well, thank you so much. If you could turn it back over to Avi,
Yes.
Thank you.
turn over
Thank
the,
you. And Annette, David is joining us. First of all, I want to thank you for terrific moderating and being partner of this, because I think, as I said, I see it as a beginning. And David was supposed to speak in the beginning, give us some reflection and ideas. He's many, many years in the field of AI and digital health, and definitely is on the committee. So David, what you could not have done in the beginning, maybe you have a better sight. And so please share with us your thoughts.
Okay, I'd be happy to. Can everybody hear me all right?
Yep.
Come through fine. Well, thank you. My apologies. I was unable to participate earlier. Of course, I knew Dr. Bai's IP in great detail, but what I thought I just might do, I got involved in digital health in 2001 as a startup CEO of a company at that time with quote unquote state-of-the-art machine language capabilities to deal with clinician monitoring of patients and also patient self-management. I'm just reflecting that in terms of the rapidity of which the sophistication of tools like AI have happened. I'll just fast forward to 2014 when I was involved with a company that dealt with elder care, self-management, and used at the time state-of-the-art from Raytheon Labs AI. I would just say I'm not a scientist, but just in the 7 years since that time, the sophistication of AI, it's just amazing what's going on. But I would only argue in that now I'm working actually with two companies that are using AI in diagnostics, that the pace of acceleration of sophistication is even getting greater. That's probably preaching to the choir to a lot of you folks who are in the middle of it as we speak. And I would say that what that translates to me from a business commercialization standpoint is, as you're budgeting, you're projecting your capital raises going forward, I'm sure you've taken a sophisticated look at what your capital requirements are going to be to continue to upgrade the capabilities of your AI engine. But I might suggest that you might want to double or triple that in terms of having the reserve in place to keep pace with some of the expected capabilities of users relative to AI. And I know that's a very broad statement, but that's kind of what I'm seeing actually with the two companies I'm currently supporting right now that use AI in advanced diagnostic platforms. One of the things I just thought I would add to the mix, and I'm a Rhode Islander and obviously want as much as possible to utilize Rhode Island resources, but I think we're also a part of an important ecosystem that goes 50 miles to the north and 50 miles to the south, and just suggest a couple other resources that are just over our border that might be helpful to young companies. And one is the Massachusetts eHealth Collaborative. A second one is also in Massachusetts, Mass Ventures, which some of you may be familiar with. They've got a lot of people in advanced digital health from the commercial standpoint as part of their team to help young companies. I would also say down in South Connecticut Innovations, which is out of the Hartford area. I know they have a number of young companies using AI in healthcare as part of their incubation program. And in the past, they've required the company to be physically located in Connecticut, but now they have a fund, which there are ways of participating in their funding programs absent having your physical. You can have your company in Rhode Island, but still there are ways to work out accessing some of their resources at CI. So I would suggest all of those might be resources that you folks are might want to look into as you continue to build out your technology platforms, as well as refining your business model, looking to access capital, etc. So I don't know, Avi, if that's kind of an overview of what I thought I might share with folks. But it's a very exciting time. Again, even going back, reflecting back 5-6 years ago, the innovation and in fact, fortunately, the marketplace is finally demanding it, accepting it, and willing to take much more risk, I think, than even 5 or 6 years ago when it comes to AI-driven diagnostics, analytics, telehealth programs, clinical decision support, patient engagement systems, the whole panoply of digital/AI enabled technology. There's much more money out there than there was even 3 years ago. So you all are where you are at a very exciting and I think propitious time. And I think it's just great. And I'm sorry I missed the first part of our session, but what I've seen in the last hour is intriguing, and keep it going.
Thank you, David. And since we have a few minutes left, Annette, maybe you want to take some more questions for our presenters, or you want to say some comments before I wrap it up?
Well, I think some of them had to leave, but I certainly, if anybody has any extra questions for our, I know Greg had to leave and he had a couple of extra questions and some comments here. I don't really have anything else other than to say, I can't even imagine starting a healthcare company right now without having an AI component. AI really is part of everything at this time. And you couldn't even imagine, you know, either building a device or actually building a solution without it. So for the most part, we are here to help. As you know, we're a close group here in Rhode Island, and we can do everything from helping you to put your business plan together to getting you legal advice, bookkeeping, and even marketing advice. So do reach out to us. We have an active group of Bridge to Israel, where we talk to Israeli companies all the time. I am very pro Israel in terms of, I think it's probably the best country for high-tech thinking and for entrepreneurship. It seems to be something that almost everyone does there. So we are very welcoming to say, why not go to Rhode Island? We're 3 hours from New York, 1 hour from Boston. We have better beaches, better food. It's a better lifestyle. Come here and join in with all of our, we're only about 1 million strong. I think you're about 8 million strong. So you're more like the size of Massachusetts, but. Well, so like
Annette, be careful about the claim about the food. Careful.
We're willing to take this challenge.
We will.
So, by the way, if we are in food, we have a culinary school, probably the only one in the East Coast. And as a matter of fact, the other culinary schools are belonging to Johnson and Wales. So we'll take this to another time. And as a matter of fact, before the pandemic, we had a big conference planned, physical, about food technology. So we might revive it.
And Greg, you don't have calamari.
We want to wrap it up. So again, I want to thank the organizing committee. That did not happen in one day. It's a work of multiple months. Annette, Carol, Melissa, David, and you know, one of the nice things in Rhode Island that we have all those organizations with Commerce RI, with Israeli Economic Mission to New York, working, and I hope that companies like CVS, Aetna, and other Rhode Island hospitals will take advantage. Some of them already took. We're here. We're doing our, especially the Rhode Island Collaborative. We're doing all our work for free, so that you don't have to worry about that. If you engage us, we'll send you a big bill. But again, it's a joint effort in the state, and it's beautiful. I want to thank also first to the session #1 speakers and moderator, to Dr. Nicole Nugent, Dr. Harrison Bai, and Levi Shapiro, Melissa, Simon spoke, and Carol as well. And I want to thank Annette for moderating this fantastic session, to Or Peleg, to Nicholas, David Porter, and Ravit and Ohad for really teaching us of what they're doing. And one of the purpose for this event was to connect basically people here in Rhode Island, Israel, let them know what's going on, be the conduit to share and do things together. So as I finish it here, Rhode Island and Israel collaborating for a better world. Thank you all, and I hope that we will be engaging in the next few months, because I already have comments from multiple companies that wanted to be on the show and on this conference, and we just said no because we're limited. But sounds to me there is plenty of interest, so perhaps we'll run another session rather than in a year, probably sometime in 6 months, and we'll go from there. So again, good night to everybody in Israel. It's around 9:30 there. Thank you to everybody in Rhode Island, and until next time, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Avi.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, Avi.
Bye, Carol.
Great job, Annette.